this demo, we'll show recent release Openstack Xena running with SolidFire demo VM. You can see that the version is 12.3 as a demo running in virtual machine, and this Openstack is all-in-one, also running in a virtual machine. Looking at this virtual machine's top output, we can see some OpenStack specific services and its network configuration. I have two interfaces, management and workload have been collapsed into one, ENS 160, whereas ENS 192 is the iSCSI network, and I can ping the SolidFire virtual IP there, so both are working as expected. I'll take a quick look at the Cinder configuration file. In default section, I made only one change, which was to add SolidFire to enable backends, and then added a SolidFire section, which is verbatim copied from the documentation and adjusted for IP login and password. The only thing that is different is I added account prefix. It was OS there, so my volumes should be named as OS-something. Now going back to OpenStack, normally you would configure this backend by adding a volume type, creating a set of QS specs. You would give it some name, such as burst, database, web, high, low, whatever you want. In that QS spec, you would specify at least one of those three categories, so minimum IOPS, maximum IOPS, burst IOPS. Once that is done, then you would associate that QS spec with the volume type. So you could have multiple QS volume types all driving or using the SolidFire backend set in Cinder.conf. Now going to compute, you can see here in actions you can create and attach, you can attach volumes and detach volumes. You can take snapshots as well. Normally we would create a volume like this. You would pick the right source, which would be the default. In my case, that is LVM, or non-default, one of QS volume types. I picked SolidFire, which is my default, set the size to 3 GB. Before we click OK, let's just take a look at volumes. Existing volumes, I have one, and the account, actually, not the prefix for the volume, is OS-something, and OS is OpenStack, stands for OpenStack that I set in SolidFire.conf prefix. Now that I've created this volume, another account has been set up, and this account another volume has been set up, and this volume uses the same account, which is the project ID. And now in instances, I can go and attach this new volume to my existing instance. Of course, I could create a new one as well, doesn't matter. Now in this case, before we begin, you can see there is one existing volume. That is the disk, the first disk, 2 GB. Now I'll create another one by attaching that existing volume that we created minutes ago. That volume has been attached now. If I now go to instances, test instance log, I will see that VDC has appeared as a 3 GB device. I do not have freeze and some other things that require to demonstrate the integrated OpenStack backup feature, but I can take snapshots. I don't need any extra packages for this. And I will now create a snapshot of this volume that I attached to the instance. Snapshot has been created. Now if I go back and refresh my SolidFire UI, I will see that snapshot is right here. So I can take snapshots directly from OpenStack console. Now from this snapshot, I could create a volume, like so. In the case I wanted to create a volume for testing, or maybe just create volume for many similar virtual machines, maybe with MongoDB or something like this, I would do like so. You can see this clone has also appeared in the list of volumes. For this project, storage tenant account. Now I will delete this volume, and then I will delete the snapshot as well. Oh, by the way, yes, so you can also increase volume size. This is another thing that we can do in SolidFire, so the Cinder driver supports this. I've increased this volume size from 3 to 4 GB. You can also retype a volume. Now, retyping changes its QS specs. You can see that I've retyped this volume. Before it was the same as Iris because it was cloned, but after refresh you can see that QoS has indeed changed. Now we're back to 2 volumes. And I will delete that snapshot, which will also delete it from the backend. And then I will go to instances and I can detach that volume so that I can delete it from the backend as well. So it all works without a glitch. The only thing that I couldn't demonstrate in these volume operations is snapshots using freeze. So it's all cleaned up. I'm back to 1 volume. And one last thing I wanted to show is Cinder CLI. So you can these operations you can also perform in the CLI. Now I see only 1 volume, which is what is expected, and you can also see this QoS specifications that you have. Now this is a typo. I shouldn't have that command twice. Alright, you can see that separate volume types is connected to the same backend. Now one thing that I recycled from one of the old SolidFire scripts is a script that creates Cinder types. So if you have many different types and QoS policies that you want to design or create, you can create them in a script or maybe in some Git repo, and you can run the script to create all these volume types and different QoS and tie them together, even pre-create volumes if you want. Here we're creating types, new QoS, and tying them together. So you can see after running the script, I've got everything sorted out without clicking too many times in the UI. Now I don't need so many of them, but you can see it can be done. So I will remove them because I don't necessarily need them here. You can find the script in my blog posts or in my GitHub repos. Another thing that I wanted to share is that in System Defaults, in Administrator section of the UI, you can adjust certain limits. For example, how many volumes an account can create or project can create, how many volume snapshots are allowed. SolidFire has a limit of 32, so I've increased this to 30 to leave 2 for certain they might be urgent or something like that. So you can adjust these carefully for your particular environment as well.